What's up, brothers? Hope everyone's doing well out there. I wanted to come out here this evening and kind of get back to the basics and have a conversation with you guys about the concept of turning a woman on. You know, a lot of people like to overcomplicate this, and I want to try my best to simplify it for you, help you guys out if this is something you're struggling with. So it's going to be one of these kind of videos. Now, before we get into that, I should say that there's a difference between what makes a woman fall in love with you, which mostly has to do with your face and your personality, because that's what she has to look at and what she has to put up with on a daily basis. What women are attracted to, which usually has to do with your lifestyle and your money and your social status and your public image. That's what they're attracted to. But in today's video, we're talking about what turns them on. So it's a whole different animal. And this is the one that most guys struggle with. Whether you're a guy that's single and you're just trying to get yourself in the game, or if you're in a sexless marriage, and you're just trying to spice things up. This is the area where, most guys, I put it like this, most relationships go south. And it's really a lot more simple than you think. So first of all, there's really only two things that you can do. At the end of the day, you don't have control over everything, but you have control over these two things. And the first thing that turns a woman on is your physique. Now, I've told myself this isn't true. I've coped hard on this. And my fitness journey, I started as a teenager all the way up until now. I've had time periods when, I'm doing intense workouts, everything's on point. I'm consistent, dedicated. My diet is dialed in, I'm ripped, I have a six-pack, all that. And I've went through other times when I'm kind of slacking in the gym and my diet is kind of all over the place. Life happens. I'm just eating whatever I want. And I did all that in a 9-year relationship, and also being single and, dating, having friends with benefits and whatnot, a little bit of everything. And let me tell you guys something. Here's what you need to understand. When you're up on top, when you're getting it in with a woman and you're up on top, the only thing she sees is you in a push-up position. You're up on top of her in a push-up position, right? And you're probably taller than her too. So what her face sees is your shoulders, your biceps, your chest, your traps. And trust me, I went through this many times with my ex-girlfriend, okay? Sure, we still had sex when my physique wasn't at its greatest. And it could still be good. There's ways to make it good no matter what, right? You got things like foreplay, role play, all kinds of different positions you can try and things you can do to spice things up, but I'm just talking raw, genuine desire. When I would get jacked, and my shoulders are on point, my biceps have veins popping out of them, my pecs are popping, my traps are going. Her face is right there around my chest area, right? And that's what she sees. And I'll look in her eyes and see her looking at my muscles. And the look on her face it's not as if she's doing this, it's a fact that she's doing this. She's using the imagery to reach her climax. She has the look on her face like she's watching dirty videos or something, like she's looking at something that's getting her aroused, something freaky, something kinky, like her eyes are damn near rolling in the back of her head. And when I'm not jacked, I don't get that same effect. I've tried to cope. Like, it's my personality. As long as I do a good job, whatever. But there's that raw, genuine desire. It's kind of like when you see a woman walking by and she has a really nice backside, really regardless of how tall she is or what her face looks like or what her job is or whatever, you don't care. You see her backside and you're like, yeah, I'm turned on by this woman. It's not that I like her, I don't love her. I'm not necessarily attracted to her in any kind of way. I'm just turned on by her. That's it. Turned on. That's something that can turn off and on anytime, but when I see her walk by right now in those pants, I'm turned on. Right? And women have that same effect. Men have that same effect on women, I should say. So, having a physique like that makes a big difference. I had a girl that was a friend with benefits. The first time she came over, I wasn't in terrible shape, but I wasn't jacked. I wasn't like dialed in, ripped. And we had a decent time. I think I had a better physique than what she was used to. But about a month later, I hit her up and she came over, and I had been dialed in. I was getting that summertime body going on. Again, I looked at her face, same exact thing. She's looking at the scenery, and that is helping her reach her climax. That's getting her excited. That's what's pushing her over the edge. So when you're a guy, and I know you probably think, well, I'm not going to work out to get the women, I'm going to work out because I want to. So be it. But just understand, if you're trying to be some type of like hookup guy, going out and having a good time, maybe you're newly single, maybe you're a young guy that's trying to explore, you're not at your maximum potential if you don't have a nice body. If you're not in there hitting bench press and shoulder press, gym press. If you're not in there hitting bench press, incline bench press, shoulder press, having that nice masculine frame with the broad shoulders, you're missing out. Like, low key, you might get yourself a nice little girlfriend and she might be checking out other guys. But if you're jacked, if you're that dominant alpha, she's gonna be checking you out. And even in a long-term relationship, if you start to get jacked in a relationship, she's gonna want validational sex. She's just gonna want to she's gonna want you to ravish her. She's gonna want to look at your body up and down. No doubt about it. And that's something that every man has control over. So keep that in mind. I know that's a long-winded explanation, but you kind of have to understand really we're all animals, we're at the end of the day, we're humans, but our sex drives are just like animals. There's certain things that drive us to want to get it on. The peacock has the feathers, the lion has the mane. The man has to have those big broad shoulders, the six-pack, the pecs. It'll do it for you. Like I said, height and face, I'm not saying they don't matter, but you don't have control over those. You do have control over this. Now, the second thing is just your conversation skills. At the end of the day, you can call it storytelling, you can call it spitting game, you can call it mouthpiece, you can call it whatever you want to call it. When I was younger, I had no idea what I was doing right. When I first started getting girlfriends and, doing my thing with the ladies, I had no idea what I was doing right. I would go to parties. We'd have like a little fire going on in the background. Everybody's drinking beer. We're sitting out back next to the fire. And I'd just be talking. Telling a story. Any random story. A story about a football game. A story about me and my dad taking a walk down a country road in the middle of the night in the summertime. A story about politics. Well, some people say you shouldn't talk politics with women. I'm calling bullshit on that. You know, if you're a good storyteller, if you're talking and women find it interesting, it's going to turn them on. You know, you can be out there, like I said, sitting out next to a fire, having a beer. You got a whole group of people around. And you talk about something that you're confident about. And that's all spitting game is, man. It's speaking with confidence. Doesn't matter. You can literally talk about cars, football, politics, anything. Anything. It just has to be conversation. Right? And when you're speaking with confidence, you really know what you're talking about, you're knowledgeable, it comes out as an interesting conversation. And women will listen. And then they start talking. You know, they share their input because they're interested in the conversation. And you listen to what they have to say. And you know, you play a little tennis game and you go back and forth. And really it's just you enjoying the conversation, right? Everyone's enjoying the conversation. But this is what used to happen to me. Like, when I was quiet, like, I should go back, take a couple steps back here. You know, there was once a time when I was a little shy around women, you know, when I was a teenager. And I used to think to myself, and I'd tell my friends, I'd say, man, if I could talk to that girl the way I talk to you guys, like, you know how I just speak freely and I'll just say anything, you know, and people are excited about conversations with me. If I could speak this same way with her, this girl I like, that rooster back there says hi, everything would be different. I know she would like me, right? But I couldn't do it back then because I was a little shy. But then once I got old enough to start partying and there was alcohol involved, like, I'll be honest, and those days, that's what helped me learn. Not the best way, but it's true. You know, I'd get a few drinks in me, and all of a sudden, I'll just say whatever I want, whenever I want, to whoever I want. I don't care who it is. You know, motor mouth talking a million miles an hour. And I just started talking women's ears off. Kind of the same way I do to you guys. I try to slow it down and have these, like, chill conversations with you guys. You know, because we're fellas talking. But with women, it's different. You know, you can kind of talk a little bit fast, be an interesting speaker, have deep conversations. And I'm telling you what, man, I would, like, get up to go to the bathroom or something, and I'd have one of them follow me. You know, just based off the conversations. You know, we're having conversations, they're intrigued, and women are these psychological creatures, right? I mean, emotional creatures, but when you get in their head, like, they'll be interested. You know, follow me to the bathroom. I walk out the door and there she is and just starts kissing me. She's turned on just by basic conversation. And all this time I was thinking, you know, if I could just speak like that. And like I said, a couple drinks, I would start speaking like that. And then obviously once I got older, all right, guy, you better shut up. You hear that rattlesnake, they ruin the sound. Once I got older and I just started saying whatever I want anyways, you know, as we get older, we don't really care what people think. Well, then same thing, you know. I can be out there, you know, having a little party or on a date with a woman, just talking with a nice flow. If you're on a date, a first date with a woman or the 1,000th date with your wife, you sit there at the dinner table, you know, just have a nice conversation with her. Tell her a story. Tell her a story about something that happened in your past. Who cares if you've already told her the story 20 times? Tell it to her again. Talk about something you're passionate about, something you're confident about, something that you're knowledgeable about. Because that's really all spitting game is. When you hear the term spitting game, that's all it is. It's just you having a conversation. and she's enjoying it. There's nothing else to it. But yeah, that's really all it is. Don't really need to go into details about that. A lot of guys want to use one-liners and pick-up lines. They're sitting there thinking, what should I say in a text message? They're at a dinner table on a date. They're thinking in their head, what do I say? If I say that, will I sound stupid? That ain't gonna work. You gotta talk. Tell a damn story. When I was a teenager, I had this class that was kind of a public speaking class. It was weird because we didn't really turn that many papers in. Like, most of our assignments were like presentations in front of the class. Like, we would sit there and learn. We'd have a test every now and then. But most of the class was giving presentations and listening to other people give presentations. I never really prepared. I remember this class. It was like the strangest class I'd ever taken. But I would never really prepare presentations. I'd kind of think about what I wanted to say. I'd go up in front of the class. There was this girl named Jamie in the class. Wonder how she's doing. Haven't seen her in a while, but she's a friend of mine. I was friends with her and her brother. And she had this really bright smile, like this really uplifting, bright smile. Every time I'd go up there and I would be talking, I would use her face as a measuring stick. Pause. I know you don't have to say pause when it's a chick, but that felt like a pause moment. But if she was smiling real big and she was engaged and interested in what I was saying, I would know I was going to get an A. If her face was like confused or something, I'd be like, all right, I need to change this up. But I know that sounds like it doesn't have anything to do with the video, but a woman's face will tell you everything you need to know. And if you're having a conversation, literally could be about the President of the United States, whatever the hell you want to talk about, right? You're having that conversation. If she's looking at you like she is interested in what you're saying, like you're telling her a freaking bedtime story and she's enjoying it, you're going to turn her on. No doubt. So that's it, guys. That's it. Your physique and your conversation skills. I'm telling you, you can turn both of those around in about 90 days. No matter where you're at. Some of you might already be ahead of the game. But, yeah. Main thing, though, is I'm telling you, there's nothing that makes you feel more like a freaking He-Man, Superman, Incredible Hulk than being up on top and looking down at her face. She's looking at the view. All she sees is chest and shoulders and biceps. And the look on her face is like, oh God, oh God. She's going crazy, eyes rolling back in her head. And the funny thing is, it's not even really about how you're putting it down. It's not about your technique. It's not about the hammer. She's looking at the freaking view. Because you got the same technique and the same hammer even when you're out of shape. But now that you're in shape, oh damn. It's like getting with a girl, she's on all fours. She's got a real nice backside. It's like, let's put it like this. If a girl has a nice backside, she's good in bed, right? Let's be honest. Be honest with you. Like, because if she has a nice backside, you can work with that. She don't really have to do anything. You can just work with that, right? So it's the same thing for them. What do you guys think, though, man? Is there anything else that can turn a woman on? conversation skills, and physique. I know a lot of you guys will say it's all about face, it's all about height. And those do matter, but you can't change them. And also, I think your face is more related to emotion. Men and women tend to seek out partners with faces and personalities that are in harmony with theirs. You ever notice that? And there's data backing this. People seek their looks match, their face looks match. Not just on a scale of 1 to 10, because you could have somebody that has like a narrow face, a round face, a square face, triangular face. And any of those could look good technically if it's has good harmony to it. But women tend to seek out men that have faces that are the same style as theirs. Like if you look at Brad Pitt and Angelina Jolie, sheesh. Eminem and Kim Mathers, they have the exact same face. Oh, even sometimes they might not even be from your corner of the world. You know, you look at Kobe Bryant and Vanessa Bryant, they have the same exact eyes, the same exact nose, same exact teeth, same exact jaw structure. Their whole image is in harmony with one another. Seriously, look at a picture next to the two of them together. They could almost be brother and sister. And literally from different continents. But yeah, you know, people, when it comes to love, they tend to seek out a looks match. It does play a role, and a personality match. Attraction, it's based on lifestyle and your public image and things like that. You know, you're the cool dude, the popular dude, that'll make you attractive. But turning a woman on, those are the only two things you got. Alright guys, I feel like these last few minutes I've just been babbling, but I think I shared a couple of nuggets there. Hope this video was somewhat informative, and that's about it for today guys. Until next time, see ya.